Embody is a regular here with us, and he's back here with us after a very busy weekend.
Where
Bill,
is he?
A different backdrop this morning. How are we feeling?
Oh, just enjoying this weather outside. It's cooled down a little bit, so just doing a little coffee shop this morning.
Okay.
It looks fantastic.
I like it, buddy. Great vibe. Tiger Stadium was buzzing this weekend, man, including the recruits on the field. Where do we start? What was this weekend like for somebody in your business who covers this?
Yeah, it's like let's call it not the Super Bowl, but the NFC or AFC championship game, a semifinal game. This is the type of recruiting weekend that you love to have on deck for yourself. Lots of talent. I think 15 at least top 150 overall prospects on campus for LSU, and including, like you said, the number one overall prospect in 2025, Bryce Underwood. He and his family were back down for their fourth visit in 6 months to LSU. They're firmly in the mix for him there as he kind of turns forward this January decision date that he does have in place right now. And, I think where we start, though, is LSU picked up 2 commits, and both in different classes, both kind of different paths to get to being Tigers. And let's lead off with 2025 Edna Carr, wide receiver Teron Francis. He's going to be one of the top overall prospects in the country ratings-wise when we update our rankings very, very soon. And I think for me, this is the Frank Wilson special, an Edna Carr kid who LSU was first to offer. He reeled in a bunch of offers early on in his recruitment, multiple Power Fives, and LSU got him to shut it down this weekend and commit. And that's big news, not only because he is one of the best prospects in the country. They call him Man-Child, and at Edna Carr to get that nickname, that's impressive. But he also has 2 teammates coming up in the 2026 class in Aiden Hall and Richard Anderson, 2 guys that are very much on LSU's radar. Aiden Hall, honestly, looks like he's about 30 years old already. So he's a big target at Edna Carr for Frank Wilson and this whole staff. And then on Sunday, they got a top 100 edge rusher, CJ Jackson, who was honestly going to probably commit to LSU this summer, and they opted to kind of hold off and go in the Colin Simmons sweepstakes. And then, he ends up committing to Georgia Tech. He ends up taking his recruitment that direction and backed off that commitment just this past week. And then LSU was there to scoop him up. Colorado, Auburn, Georgia, plenty of others overall were kind of pushing for him to come by campus to check things out. But he ends up committing to LSU this weekend on his visit, and that's a huge pickup. LSU needed an edge rusher in this class, and now they get one in top 100 prospect CJ Jackson out of the Atlanta area.
So the weekend with Underwood, obviously the number one player, there was a big push to get him into a game atmosphere in Tiger Stadium. I don't know if you could have scripted it any better on what Tiger Stadium was able to produce on Saturday night. What was the feeling that it left behind?
Yeah, I think this was that final piece in terms of his recruitment from LSU's angle, I guess, in terms of what he hadn't seen. He's gone through camp. He's seen Joe Sloan, coach. He's been on campus for multiple unofficial visits. He's been in a kind of a party atmosphere in the Bayou Splash, and he wanted to see a game. And so he came down with his whole family for this one. And, you couldn't have asked for a better weekend. Joe Sloan, Jaden Daniels got to spend a lot of time with him, which was big. And I think this is squarely put LSU right in the mix. There's still time in his recruitment. He's still going to take other visits. He's been to Penn State. He's been somewhere else, I think, already this year. But for LSU, they're putting themselves in a really, really good position here to be right there till the end. And, now it's just kind of figuring out what those final pieces are as he gets closer to that. I believe it's January 6th decision date when he's going to announce his commitment. This is you can't have set it up any better for LSU so far in his recruitment. So they did an outstanding job, and we'll see kind of what's next with him.
Kaden Durham tweeted out after the new rankings were published on Sunday after a couple of commitments had popped for LSU, and I believe put LSU within like the top 7 in the country. And Kaden Durham said, expect that to change here pretty soon. What was this weekend like for future guys? I mean, it seems like LSU, like you said, I mean, this was as epic of a recruiting weekend as it could have turned out to be.
Yeah, 3 big, not necessarily surprises, but surprises in terms of guys who were on campus. Were 3 Texas A&M commits: 5-star athlete Terry Bussey, 4-star defensive lineman Gabe Relaford, who's honestly the top ranked or the number 1 defensive lineman in Louisiana in my mind, just with what he's put together. And he just moved up in the rankings again. And then they had Draylon Miller, Silsbee, Texas prospect, who is a top 100 prospect for the On3 industry ranking, was back in town. And, you know, Kaden Durham, he loves to get the pot going on Instagram and Twitter. And we'll see. I mean, this is a really good weekend for LSU. I think I wouldn't call anything imminent just yet, but the one we are watching in terms of can LSU capitalize on having him on campus in a weekend where, you know, LSU's offense continued to roll and Texas A&M lost on the road to Tennessee, is Draylon Miller. He's a top 100 prospect. He's a kind of a do-it-all wide receiver playmaker for Silsbee, and is always super productive on Friday nights. And LSU is continuing to push there. And so in terms of what they were able to show while he was on campus, this was a very, very good step in the right direction. But he's going to go back home. He's going to mull things over with his family and kind of see what's next. And if a flip is, you know, truly on the table, I should say.
Ethan Callaway was back in town, a committed prospect to Brad Davis in the offensive line. LSU has done a really good job of keeping themselves relevant here with this commitment, right?
Yeah, so Ethan is all in on his high school season out there in North Carolina. So he was not back in town, but I caught up with him on Friday night. I was actually out in North Carolina to see him, get eyes on him. He's a guy that we love at On3. We have him in the top 100 overall prospects in the country. So to get out and go see him in action, he's still a prospect that's developing. He came from a triple option attack early in his high school career, and then they shifted more to pro-style spread offense. So he's still developing, but I mean, 6'7", 300, engages well, plays really under control, and he's locked in and going to enroll early in January. And, you know, just said so many good things about LSU and Brad Davis and Brian Kelly and the whole staff. You know, LSU was the first FBS offer for him, which is pretty wild to go all the way out to North Carolina and take a chance on a kid like that. And he didn't forget it. And I asked him, I said, is any schools trying to change your mind? He said, I'm not entertaining any of that. I don't want to spit in their face. And, you know, they believed in me. I believe in them. And I'll see him in January. So don't know if he's going to make it in for a game. He and his family are pretty focused on what's, you know, ahead for him as a high school senior right now.
A huge game on Friday night in Louisiana was Captain Shreve versus Natchitoches Central up in North Louisiana. And Joseph Cryer, of course, is an LSU commitment. But a lot of people came away talking about Devin Harper from Captain Shreve, Billy. This offensive lineman seems like he's got potential to be one of the tops in the country here for the class of 25. What's his recruitment start to look like?
Yeah, I got a chance to see Devin Harper in his fall scrimmage, I should say, and I think he's really got all the tools to be very, very good. He's going to be an interior offensive lineman at the next level. He's playing tackle for Captain Shreve right now, but what an awesome young man, first of all. But that's not why schools like LSU, Texas A&M, Georgia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Texas Tech are all really in the thick of that recruitment right now. It's because of, you know, his upside. And I think he's still learning as a pass protector. He's really, really mean and nasty when it comes to getting downhill in the run game and finishing blocks. But I mean, he just oozes with potential. And I think as he continues to kind of grow into his body and he'll get into a college weight room, the sky's, you know, pretty high for him in his, you know, projection at the next level to be one of the top offensive linemen in the country, especially along the interior. LSU sits in a really good spot. think he's probably had LSU gloves on every game this year. He's got a backpack. I know that doesn't win recruitments, but it is noteworthy. LSU sits in a good spot early on.
Keelen Moses was in town this weekend. Speaking of sitting in a good spot, where are the Tigers at with the Baton Rouge native?
Yeah, Keelen is going to set a commitment date here pretty soon. Beyond 3 RPM, multiple picks in for LSU to land him there, and what a land it'd be to get a prospect like that after everything that happened with his brother Dylan. He is a major priority for LSU. This whole staff has really taken an approach recruiting him. He's starting to bond more with more prospects and commits that are headed to LSU as well. Unless there's a surprise in order, this one seems all LSU. And I mean, he's been on campus. I know he goes to school on campus, but he's been to games and practices and all sorts of things throughout his early recruitment so many times. Again, it would kind of be a surprise to see him go anywhere else. But yeah, LSU sits in a really good spot there to get a key piece to that linebacker room for the future on board.
Last one, Billy, I'll get you out of here. Former number 1 defensive player, high school player in the country, tweeted out overnight, Antonio Alfano, that after a great talk with Coach Jimmy Lindsey and LSU, that he has that they have created a scholarship for him. Do you have any idea what's going on here? Obviously, Alfano is a big-time player. At one point was the number 1 overall high school player in the country as a defensive end.
Yeah, Antonio Alfano is a really interesting case. I think, everything he's been through with his career, it's been a lot of off-field ups and downs. He's got talent, but he's, just kind of bounced around the last few years. So we'll see if LSU turns up the heat. They've been in contact, like he said, but maybe something where we're kind of watching to see, how the conversations go a little bit more before we see if something real, in terms of a recruitment turns up there. And that goes for a lot of schools that are looking at him as a potential piece down the road.
Billy, thanks for the time as always, man. Recapping a great weekend in Tiger Stadium. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Scott. Sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Billy Embody checking in this morning from On3 at Billy Embody is where you can find him on social media. Thanks for tuning in to our premium LSU content right here on YouTube. If you want more of it, subscribe below.